As we know, the environment dominated 2018, but not for the right reasons. Across the country, media reports on the catastrophic water conditions affecting Southwest Florida, resulting in massive marine die-off. It was a tough year on water quality, but it was also a tough year on our community, on the businesses that attempt to work here in the summer and depend on the summer tourists to come. It was also tough also on the wildlife, on the sea turtles, on the marine life. But we also had many people significantly impacted through health impacts from blue-green algae and sustained red tide impacts. This has really taken root. And the idea that the environment is over here, the economy is over here, human health is over here, is the greatest myth of all. Right? In Southwest Florida and in Florida, they are all one and the same. So this is not just about the environment. This is about our survivability and our own quality of life here in Southwest Florida. And that's really come home to roost, I think, this year. The Conservancy, I'm really proud to tell you, was at the center of many of these debates and actions to address these problems. But today, however, is a new day, and I'm an optimist. And I got to tell you that I think today, in fact, is a historic day for addressing Florida's environmental water quality crisis. We don't want our water to look like this. We don't want canals to look like this, that should look like this, to look like this. But we've got an opportunity, an unprecedented opportunity, I believe. In fact, solutions and strategies that we've been advocating for 2 decades, I think we have a better chance of making happen this year than in any other year, and I'm going to explain why in a moment. This morning, we had the pleasure of meeting with Governor Santis and his leadership team. We were there at 8 o'clock in the morning on the water. It was a little chilly. We were there with our fellow environmental partners, the core partners here, and I was standing proudly with the governor when he signed his order, an executive order that was made known to Florida today, of how his administration will lead in response to this water quality crisis and will not just react. And they are putting the money behind the policy. They announced a $2.5 billion commitment, which is $1 billion more than the last administration over the next 4 years to fund critical water quality projects in Florida. I think that deserves some recognition. I know we're well above $2.5 billion to solve all of our problems, but it's a fantastic start by what I believe, a bold statement by our new governor. But I also want to share some news with you that just happened literally 2 hours ago. As of 3 p.m., the governor has requested the resignation of the entire South Florida Water Management District Governing Board. This governor is going to hold people accountable, and this board has been unaccounted for many years with outrageous actions, not serving the needs and the interests of the people of South Florida. It is outrageous that our tax dollars are not being spent on good science, on providing water supply, and this governor has taken action, and he will have a brand new group of Water Management District board members, and I'm happy to say the Conservancy has recommended a number of names to the governor to replace some of the outgoing members. That's exciting. To be honest with you, I actually had a completely different speech written for today, but the events of the last few days are just so energizing, and Catherine knows, our marketing coordinator, we were literally scribbling notes until about 5 minutes before you walked in here. But it's so exciting. And I think this is what Florida needs. Florida needs leadership from the top. We can do our part as a conservation organization, but we need the governor of Florida to be leading, and leading this legislature, by the way, which has not always been leading on the issues, and negotiating and making sure that the ability of the governor to set and frame the debate is set from day one. And on day 2 of his administration, he has made water quality the #1 issue. But we're here because we're 55 years and we're stronger, we're more organized than we ever have been. We're taking that momentum and we're boldly moving into the future to address the incredible challenges before us. And I know we've said it a few times, but it really isn't possible without all of you. You are the lifeblood of the Conservancy. We are nothing without our members, our supporters, and our volunteers. We just cannot do it. So for 2019, I just want to share with you what is it that we need to get done with this fantastic new leadership in Tallahassee. What is it we must get done? And at the top of our list is #1, water quality. Because simply put, water affects everything in South Florida. And so we have 3 priorities: water quality, passing a statewide fracking ban, and advocating for smart growth in our region. I'm going to take a little bit of time to go through them and explain where the governor's new commitments also intersect with those. On water quality, we know it's like a puzzle piece. You've probably seen this picture before that we've used, and I often sort of compare it to a Rubik's Cube. There's no single solution. There's no single silver bullet that can solve all of our problems. But there are a number of key things that we must do and will do, and I believe with the leadership in place, we really will get it done this year. And included in the governor's announcement today, one of the most exciting things for the West Coast that we should all be proud of is that missing piece there on the C-43 West Basin Reservoir. That is a $600 million Everglades restoration project. It is underway right now in Hendry County. It's a very large reservoir. But what good is a reservoir if all you're doing is storing dirty water and putting it back into the river? So what I'm so excited to share with you today is the governor's made a commitment to build a water quality component to add on to the C-43 reservoir, which the Conservancy has asked for the last 10 years, and today we will get it. So that's exciting. We know this technology works. It's used on the East Coast, in the stormwater areas on the East Coast, and so this is going to clean the water up. And it will also feed the river when it's dying of thirst, much as it is right now. In fact, there is a significant blue-green algae right now in the Caloosahatchee, so we can't even take people to show them the river and the problems or the C-43 because it would be toxic to take you out there. So Florida is growing quickly. And as we know, we have an estimated 1,000 new residents a day moving to Florida. So how we build new developments will be essential for actually water quality as well as traffic and a lot of other things. So the Conservancy is going to take this opportunity. We believe there's an opportunity this year to pass new statewide stormwater standards. It sounds sort of boring, but let me explain why that's important. Every time we build a new community, if we're not treating the pollution on site of that community, guess what we're doing? We're moving the problem to the coast. We're moving it. We're shunting the problem downstream into our backyards. So as Collier County grows, as Lee County grows, as Charlotte grows, we need to make sure that those developments are treating that pollution on site. So we're not just treating the problem downstream with restoration dollars. And that's absolutely critical. We think we have a chance to do that. In addition, we are going to push very, very hard, with all your help, I believe, as well, for fertilizer ordinances. The root cause of all of our water quality problems is really too much nutrients in the system. And one of the ways we can start is in our own backyard, in our own city, in our own county, to take these antiquated, very weak fertilizer ordinances and let's get them up to the 21st century standard. It's an easy lift. We can do it this year. And in fact, the Board of County Commissioners is going to discuss this in February. And I hope you're all signed up for our e-alert because we want all of you to lend your voices with our voices to get these fertilizer ordinances passed. And I think we can do that this year. Now, just transitioning on water, fracking actually has a lot to do with water. And, just to remind us all, the first instance of fracking in Florida occurred right here, less than 5 miles away from the Conservancy at the Hogan Collier well. And just go back to the previous slide for a moment. That's the well, but go back to the slide. This is a slide provided to us, was done by our great staff, of course, but the information came from one of our fantastic board members who couldn't be with us here tonight, and just a dear board member, that's John Hall. Well, John Hall, along with John Hushin, who is the spouse of Judy Hushin, who's on our board, are both retired oil and gas executives. And I believe what oil and gas executives tell us about fracking in Florida. And what they told us is this. Florida holds less than 0.1% of the entirety of national reserves of the entire country. And is it really worth the risk when we have no infrastructure, no pipelines, we just don't have the infrastructure to handle this? And the oil in Florida, by the way, is not going to contribute to America's energy independence. This oil is going to be used for bunker fuel and likely sold to the third world. And so look at the left, that's the national reserves, and on the right is what Florida's entire reserves equate. This is not about Florida's energy independence or America's energy independence. This is a risky strategy that threatens our water supply, and this governor has made a commitment today to ban fracking in Florida this year. That is a big change. And I can tell you the Conservancy had a lot to do with that. We have been leading the charge since that fracking incident. Another thing you need to be aware of about the dangers of fracking, if we go forward one slide here, this is occurring right this summer in the Big Cypress Wilderness Preserve. They are doing seismic testing across hundreds and hundreds of miles of the Big Cypress. Now, I understand mineral rights have rights to access their minerals, but they should not be able to access it in any way that destroys the preserve itself. One of the conditions of the permits that was given was that none of the equipment should go anywhere close to standing water. That truck is stuck in standing water. And by the way, all the paper that looks on the water, that's a pollution leak, probably of oil from that truck. They're clearly in violation of the permit, yet no one is calling the department to say, revoke the permit from the people that are in the Big Cypress, because there has not been a willingness to enforce the laws. And on the left, you see, on the right there, you see those multi-ton seismic buggies that are going through hundreds of miles of one of the most sensitive wetlands in the United States of America. So we hope and we know that if fracking is banned in Florida, it will end all this exploration, because oil exploration will not be financially feasible if they are not allowed to frack in the Big Cypress. So again, I think we have a phenomenal opportunity this year. Also, we've got some good news. We're going to move into another critical area, which is smart growth. Or we hope it'll be smart growth. We have a fundamental decision. How is Collier County going to build out its future? Will it just be a series of sprawling subdivisions moving all the way into the Western Everglades? Or can we manage a smarter, better way with less tax infrastructure, funded infrastructure, and less impacts to wildlife, and less roads, and more smarter communities? We hope, certainly, that it's the smarter community approach. And I have to say, I think for our own quality of life, this is probably the biggest issue that will affect our quality of life. The idea that you're going to drop 300,000 people east of I-75 and they're going to live out there and not come in here is a myth. I can guarantee you that. And so I believe this will be one of the largest issues in 2019. And I'll clear my throat because I have some other good news for everyone. You probably saw this headline in the paper. The 10,000 unit proposed development, 10,000 acre rural lands west project, 4,000 units, I believe, has been revoked in terms of they have withdrawn the permit. Collier Enterprise withdrawn the permit. Why? Because this is not a financially feasible project. And if this project were to go forward, it was going to be built on primary panther habitat, and it was also going to take out a significant amount of wetlands. We can't be spending $16 billion restoring the Everglades and ripping out critical wetlands and panther habitat at the same time. It is absolutely a victory. The Conservancy, I want to tell you, has been absolutely instrumental in keeping people's feet to the fire of saying, what is the purpose of the RLSA program? And the purpose is to allow what would have been 16,000 sort of acres and units of development to occur in a smart way. I just want to acknowledge Nick Penniman, who's here with us as well. He has been an absolutely charging force on the board and is an expert in this area. And Nicole Johnson, who can't be with us here tonight because she's at the Everglades Coalition, is probably one of the smartest people in the state of Florida on smart growth management. So this is a win for the Conservancy. It will come back in some other form, but it'll likely be less than 1/4 of the size of the original one. And that's what we need: less development, less speed, and more thoughtfulness for how we put these developments in place. So that's good news. I told you it was a good day for Florida's environment. Also, I'm really excited to tell you another great thing that happened today. I can't believe this. I never have this much material to work with. I am so proud to tell you that the Village of Estero, whom we have worked with for 2 years, today acquired 61 acres of very environmentally sensitive land in downtown Estero, the corner of 41 and Corkscrew Boulevard. That's downtown Estero. That's a big deal. For $26 million, they have bought the land. As of today, they own that land, and the Conservancy worked very, very strongly behind the scenes. In fact, we are the only environmental group to publicly go out and support that, along with the Trust for Public Lands. So I think all of you deserve a round of applause for allowing us to go out and do that. And credit where credit due, you have to credit the Village Council leadership. They have been remarkable. They are a tiny little village, and they have taken a bold move for conservation because the people want it. They don't want their entire community paved over, and this is a historic opportunity for Estero. So I've given you sort of the priorities for 2019. I've shared some great victories and successes. So do we get to stop here? Sorry, we don't. We got to keep pushing, folks. We got to look to the future. We can never afford to just rest on our laurels and say, job well done, because the job is not done. So one of the things, my job with the board here, is to sort of decide where are we going and how do we best meet the mission of the Conservancy. And I'm going to take you on a very quick tour through something we're going to call Vision 2025. You are the first to hear about it tonight. And it is a 7 to 10 year plan. And it's addressing 4 key quadrants here at the Conservancy to support the mission in the next 7 to 10 years. Quadrant 1 is to maintain the institutional strength and the programs that I've described to you. We cannot stop doing policy. We cannot stop rehabilitating all the animals in the Von Arx Hospital, 3,700 by the way last year. We cannot stop educating children and families and adults in congressional visits. By the way, we reached 55,000 people last year through our programs. So we need to keep doing that. We need to stay on top of the python problem. That may be the single largest threat to our native wildlife, in fact. And we are on it with Ian Bartosik and his incredible knowledge and team. They are out there every single day building science and knowledge and eventually tools to, we hope, eventually fully eradicate the Burmese python. So we have to keep doing all that. But it requires two things. Really great people. And if I can say one thing about the Conservancy, these facilities are wonderful, but what really makes the Conservancy hum along and have impact, it's the people. It's the staff that we get to work with, the interns and the volunteers. You heard Van talk about it, you heard Ed talk about it, but it's true. These are the people that make it happen every day. And people power our programs. So without those talented, motivated people, we don't really have an effective Conservancy. And you have to think, Naples is one of the most expensive places to live in the United States. If you're a naturalist coming to live here and making a relatively low salary, we have to find ways to support those staff and help them. And so that's what we are trying to do to attract and retain the best and the brightest and pay them competitively. So that's not enough, though, because we also need to build our endowment. Even though we've had a great report from our treasurer, our endowment relatively is quite small for an organization of our size. So we keep wanting to build the endowment. We keep wanting building the trust of our community. We received a lot of awards this year and recognition, and we have to keep doing all of that. The benefit of an endowment, by the way, is that it's a one-time effort with a permanent result. Right? Once that endowment's in place, we wouldn't be where we are today had we not had the endowment over the last 20 years. So I just want to recognize and honestly all those people that have supported our endowment drive in the last year, in the last 10 years. It has really made a difference, and it has allowed our organization to grow to the level that we are which today, where we have almost 70 full-time employees tackling all these critical issues. So moving on, it's about people, but it's also about our facilities. And we have been very busy plotting out the future for what we're calling Nature Center 2.0. And that's just not our facilities here, but also our beautiful facilities down in Rookery Bay. How many people have ever taken a Good Fortune cruise? Right? It's magic. Right? You can't live in Southwest Florida and not enjoy the Good Fortune. In fact, one of the really wonderful people that's here tonight is a good friend, Jenny Sutton. She organized a bunch of women a long, long time ago to go on a cruise on Rookery Bay. And that was the beginning of something we'll talk about a little later, but that was the beginning of a lot of new people in this community being introduced to the beauty of Rookery Bay, the majesty. When you have 6,000 birds returning to those Rookery Islands, it's magic, right? It really is incredible. And so we have to share that magic with people, and the Nature Center is a great tool. But this isn't just a nature center. This is the headquarters for the Conservancy of Southwest Florida. It's a gateway to the mission of the Conservancy of Southwest Florida. And if you want people to care about nature, guess what? You got to connect them with nature. We just can't do it through videos and virtual reality and social media. That's all great, but it's not enough. And these experiences that we can offer here at the Conservancy are absolutely world-class, and a lot of people have come together to make them happen. So what are we going to do? We've got a plan for the future. This is it. I'm not going to spend 30 minutes going through the plan, but let me say we're going to start with one place, our beloved Blair Intern Dormitory. Mrs. Blair was a visionary, and she built that dormitory for us years ago. But that dormitory is being loved to death. 365 days a year, 26 interns day out, day in, day out. We cannot operate without our interns. And that building, I'm afraid one more storm would likely probably knock it over. So I don't want to wait for that to happen. So we are going to commit to building a new green dormitory and to expand our internship program and have a safe and wonderful place for our interns to live. And with your help, we're going to build that and start in less than a year. I think it's exciting. And by the way, we have gotten a gift to get us going and hire the architects on that. And the person's in the room who funded that, so thank you. But that's not enough. We also want to expand our fantastic Dalton Discovery Center. I mean, that is just such a wonderful way to immerse people in all the habitats and the issues of the Conservancy in Southwest Florida. But we want to do more. We want to interpret Everglades restoration, this great momentum we've discussed. We want to do more of it and explain to people our role and why it matters. We want to explain Burmese python and invasive species and why are they such a challenge to our native wildlife. And we also want to interpret the threats from climate change into our mission of land, water, and wildlife conservation. So I think we've got some innovative ideas that we hope to roll out in the next year to show you what we can do there. We want more outdoor nature walking trails and a lot more enhancements to the preserve over the next 5 to 6 years. And simply put, it's just not a nature center. It's a magical place. I see it every day. I see the way people just have these experiences here. And, it is a critical place to pursue our mission aspirations, but it's just, we can make it even better, and it's great already. But we're not ready to just rest on our laurels. We're going to make more enhancements, so stay tuned. The next section has to do with being a regional conservation organization. And simply put, why are we regional? We were the Collier County Conservancy. What happened? Pollution doesn't stop at the county line. Panthers don't stop at the county line. Blue-green algae doesn't stop at the coastal county line. Red tide doesn't know whether they're in Lee, Charlotte, or Henry counties or Collier counties. It all crosses into the greater Everglades Western ecosystem, and that's what we're here to protect. So we need to do more to keep that going. And we're going to do that through a lot of our partnerships. I think some of you know that we have a fantastic partnership with Florida Gulf Coast University. I was with Dr. Martin this morning along with the governor, and he reaffirmed his commitment to strengthening that partnership. So stay tuned for more, but I think you're going to see more FGCU Conservancy partnership around environmental education in particular happening in the next 3 to 6 months. We are also leading. And one of the things I'm very proud of, the last logo here, along with the Naples Zoo, who just funded 3 more years of our Python research, by the way. Great partners, great neighbors, great friends. But the last logo is the Everglades Coalition. And some of you may be aware that this is probably one of the most effective coalitions in the United States. And the envy of many other environmental sections of the country that wish they had a coalition. It is 50 organizations that speak with a single voice. And I'm so proud to tell you that tonight, as we're here, the coalition meeting is starting out. I'm going to leave 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, along with Van. And, but our environmental policy specialist, Marissa Caruso, is co-chairing that for the entire coalition. So that's a huge honor to be invited to, it's the classic corralling all the ducks to move in the same direction. It's not an easy job, but that's the type of leadership we have in our ranks, and her peers chose her to lead this, and so we're very proud of her. And our commitment to the estuaries and to the Everglades has never been stronger, and you can see that through all of our work. So we will continue to do that as well. One of the most useful things we did in 2017 was to create the 3rd edition of the Estuaries Report Card. I hope many of you have seen this. This is really the best of the Conservancy. This takes 700 to 900 pages of technical scientific data and translates it into a report card that every single person, including the politicians, can all understand. And I think you can see the conclusions pretty boldly. What are the grades like? Not so good, right? Someone didn't go to summer school. A lot of D's, E's, F's. We got 1 A, got 1 B, but not many. A lot of D's and C's. And this was all based, by the way, on data from the state of Florida, so we didn't manipulate the data. But what this has become is a critical report card of the state of our estuaries, and we are going to recommit to doing this every 5 years, and I would actually like to even do it perhaps every 3 years, but we'll see. But we are going to continue this effort, and even though this was done in 2017, the results of this are more valid today than ever before. And I can tell you that a lot of people read this, and I think it's the best of what we do. This is a deep dive, but then we come back to summarize it so people understand what's happening in my watershed and what can I do about it. And I think if we can give people answers, they're willing to take action. So we need to do more of that. And I'm going to transition to the last part of the presentation, which has to do with education and then climate change. This is a fantastic idea. We want to make it happen. This is a mobile environmental education classroom called a STEM classroom. Everyone knows what STEM stands for, I think. Science, technology, engineering, and math. Guess what you need to solve the environmental problems of today? Science, technology, engineering, and math, and also creativity. But our vision is to fund this bus this year and reach tens of thousands more students, community groups across the entire region through a mobile classroom. We know it works. We know there are blood mobiles, mobile dental clinics. We know some of you have probably been involved in designing and planning those. And so imagine a mobile classroom, what we could do, taking blue-green algae under a microscope so kids and adults can see what does it look like, where does it come from, what can I do to prevent it. So that's one of our great regional visions for 2025. Finally, I can't leave today's presentation without talking about what I think in the long term will be one of the greatest threats to Southwest Florida, and that's climate change and its impacts. I firmly believe this is a threat to our mission. We have gone deep into this issue with the board of directors and with the climate change task force. We created a report, and I can tell you that even though the impacts are significant, I don't think they're understood yet. But I'm positive, and I believe we can do a lot more to make our community more resilient. And guess how we're going to do that? By doing the same thing we've been doing for 55 years. The best defense against climate change is a healthy wetland, our healthy mangroves, our strong dunes on our beaches. These are the bulwark, and I can tell you, South Beach wish they had more mangroves. And if I could show you the picture of after Irma came through the 10,000 islands, you'll realize those 10,000 islands, they saved us from Irma. Those forests took it on the chin for us. And they really showed the scars. You can see them. You know, those forests will slowly come back. But without a healthy forest, Naples would have been flattened. It really would have been flattened. It took a lot of the wind shear out of it. Those mangroves are invaluable as a bulwark against climate change. And guess who's really good at mangrove conservation? Kathy Worley, our Director of Science. She's the expert. And so we need Kathy and her team to go out and do even more mangrove work. And everyone across the country understands mangroves matter now more than ever. Kathy's really happy about that. She always felt the least understood forest in America was mangroves. So we're excited. We're going to talk to everyone about mangroves and why they matter. So that's really great. And I think the other thing is that there's a lot of climate connections that people don't intuitively make. These are some of them right here. I won't get into all of them, but take pythons, for example. What do pythons love? More than native wildlife, of course. Warm weather. The 8 last years in Florida have been the hottest years ever on record. So climate change is meaning that invasive species are moving in and being more successful. So it does matter. There is a connection, and those pythons are eating their way through all our native wildlife. So we have to recognize and talk about that connection. Everglades restoration matters more because of climate change, because a healthy Everglades is a bulwark against sea level, the intrusion of salt water into our freshwater drinking wells. It can really act as a great defense against that. And also think of our sea turtles. We have been doing sea turtle conservation work for 35 years. What happens if the beach that those sea turtles depend on is no longer here? No more sea turtles in Collier County. 35 years of research, what happens to that? We can't let that happen, so we have to find ways, we have to be innovative, and we have to protect what we have first and foremost. I sort of call that the living shorelines approach. We have to make everyone believe that a living shoreline with healthy dunes, lots of mangroves, lots of trees, lots of sea oats, that's what we need, and it's beautiful and it's highly functional. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. Also, we'll use the Nature Center to make more climate connections, and we're very excited because we think we can tie this into everything that we have been doing for 55 years. It just matters more now. So I'm near the end of this segment of our program, but I just want to say I recognize this is a bold vision. And however, like the governor, I think he has laid out a bold vision. He is going to really make enforcement an issue. He is putting more money into it. And so I think our ability to take this historic window of political opportunity, this is the time. We have to do it now, and we need the resources to do it. So I'm very excited. I've never been more excited after 20 years of the Conservancy. I am totally pumped up. You can't even contain me tonight. And for all those people that are watching via video link up, you'll feel the excitement when you get back to Naples too.